Well, David, it is officially 30 days out from the Super Bowl airing right here on 10 Tampa Bay. We're hoping that the Buccaneers can get there.
There's a hope, yes.
There is a hope. They are one of the biggest underdogs in the playoffs to make it to Las Vegas this year. But we are going to break down the picture here of what it's going to be like to get to Las Vegas and which two teams we think will be able to be the two in Sin City. And each week, we will continue to update you on our thoughts, predictions, where things are going, what we've learned, what we see. And first, we wouldn't be doing our jobs here in Tampa if we were not talking about the Monday Night Football game, the last on the playoff slate between all the playoff teams, the Buccaneers hosting the Eagles. How are we feeling entering this matchup?
I mean, the Bucs have been saying it all week long. The Bucs are not the same team they were when these teams clashed in Week 3, and objectively, the Eagles are not the same team they were when they came to Ray J and beat Tampa Bay back in Week 3 on that Monday night game. And you look at the injuries, and that kind of tells the story right there. As of right now, Jalen Hurts hasn't thrown a football since injuring his finger. You've got the receiver injuries as well, and on the Bucs side, fairly healthy. So you look at it, and also where these teams have been since the start of December. That, to me, tells the story of who's coming into the playoffs high. You want to be playing your best football at the best time. The Eagles are playing their worst football at the worst time.
Yeah, if you think back to last year with the Buccaneers covering that team and how bad the vibes were, and we thought, hey, maybe they'll just flip the switch. Tom Brady is a quarterback. Don't worry about it. Nah, they got blown out by the Cowboys. And this time around, it feels like the Eagles have the bad vibes entering the playoffs, going on the road. And while on paper the talent is certainly there, I would argue better than what the Buccaneers have on paper. Tampa Bay has been battle-tested, whether that's throughout the course of the season where they went into a huge slump in the middle of the year, or even in games. Think back to the Saints where they were terrible in that contest. But even in the fourth quarter, they sort of made a push there to maybe come back. They don't give up. They don't get blown out very often. So the spread in this contest is +3. The Bucs are a home underdog for the second straight year in the playoffs. Obviously, the Cowboys covered last year. This year around, I do lean towards the Bucs covering. I would even tickle the money line as far as maybe the Bucs pulling off the upset just because of what's going on there in Philly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, we're talking about the defending NFC champions have their fans talking about we should get rid of the head coach.
They might be rooting for the Bucs this week. That's how bad it's gotten in Philly.
It is insane. Like, you guys just went to the Super Bowl last year, and all of a sudden it's, we don't want this guy as a head guy anymore. It's the Bucs really have a lot of the momentum coming into Monday night.
Yeah, and I will say that the Buccaneers have been to the playoffs 4 straight years in the NFC. No other team in that conference has a longer playoff streak than the Buccaneers. So that is very interesting. Now let's go through some other topics. We'll stay in the NFC because the two games previously to that, and I do want to mention San Francisco is waiting on bye week. They are certainly the favorites to make it to Las Vegas. But the two other NFC games, you have the Packers who snuck in as a 7 seed. Just like the Buccaneers, a very young team, maybe a year too soon, rebuilding, and there they are. I do want to mention one quick thing with the Buccaneers. They're actually the first team since 2014 to make the playoffs with the most dead money on the books. But the Packers are one of the youngest teams in the NFL, and they're going to Dallas to take on the Cowboys, and the spread in that contest is Dallas -7. And, of course, we have the storyline there with Mike McCarthy playing the Packers. And we have a lot of those storylines in the first round of the playoffs. Just, what is your gut feeling in this one?
I look at this Packers team and I see 3 straight wins to end the regular season to get into the postseason, and I say, hey, they have the momentum. But when you look at some of the numbers, that defense is real iffy.
Yeah, Joe Barry. Go ask anybody in the Buccaneers locker room how good that Packers defense can be.
Yeah, it's real iffy. And then you look at the strength of this Cowboys team, and it's the way Dak Prescott has played this season. Him and CeeDee Lamb have just been, that is one heck of a connection. And then you add on that defense with Dan Quinn calling the shots there. And I think at home, the Cowboys they're too good for the Packers right now. Jordan Love has done a great job. First-year starter. Give props to him for what he's done. He went through a lull in the middle of the season, was able to bounce back. But I don't think he's not Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs. I don't think he's going to be able to pull this one out.
I will say this, Matt LaFleur, one of the more underrated coaches out there.
Absolutely.
I don't think he's talked enough. He's going to be able to put up some points against the Cowboys defense, even as good as it is. Just LaFleur is that good. What we saw to Jordan Love this year, he's emerging as maybe one of the next big quarterbacks in this league just for his first year starting. And you see a little Aaron Rodgers in technique and the off-platform throws. But the Cowboys at home are a different team than the Cowboys on the road. And so I do lean the Cowboys, though may be pushing towards a Packers cover. So number 2 seed Cowboys, I think we both agree they're making it through. Then the nightcap, Sunday Night Football, you got the Rams and the Lions. Of course, Stafford returns to Detroit.
Right.
The storyline that I don't think has been talked enough about because of Staffy returning to Detroit is the fact that Goff gets to face the Rams.
Right.
You know, Sean McVay dumped Jared Goff after a Super Bowl run where they lost. Then, you know, the next season doesn't go exactly how McVay wants it. Look, credit to McVay and the Rams. They got Stafford. They won the Super Bowl here in Tampa. Everybody remembers it because Cooper Kupp catches that deep ball after that miraculous comeback in that game inside Ray J. But Goff was really dumped in Detroit, and that franchise was in a bad place then.
Yeah, it was.
Dan Campbell has really built it back up. Jared Goff, his confidence built back up. The Lions are favored by 3, and the Lions are another team.
Yes.
Where at home, certainly Jared Goff at home is different than on the road.
The big question mark with this game is Sam Laporta's health. I think he's been such a weapon for that offense and for Jared Goff. This storyline, it's like Vince McMahon wrote it. I mean, this is what both franchises wanted.
Yeah, this is like the head, right?
Yeah.
Like Royal Rumble, anything. This is the headline act.
This is it, because you have 2 former number 1 overall picks. They were traded, and this is what both franchises wanted. They wanted success with those quarterbacks, and now they're having success because they're in the playoffs, and they're about to clash. And then you have Matthew Stafford. Of course, there's the big storyline there of him going back to Detroit, where he was there for, I think it was a dozen seasons. He was their franchise quarterback. So there's so many storylines in this game. To me, this is appointment television.
Yeah.
I think the Lions at home get the win just because the Rams, they've been a roller coaster. They've been a lot of this. But I will say, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, like, how do you defend
Kyron Williams?
How do you defend all of those weapons? Like, because when they're going, they're going.
Towards the back half of this year, actually, the Rams have been the most efficient offense in the league. So, to me, I actually lean towards, again, Rams covering, tickling the money line with the Rams. The Lion, that stadium is Ford Field is going to be incredible. I mean, they have been waiting for this moment. The prices for tickets are outrageous. They're probably going to be as much as what you're going to see there in Vegas for the Super Bowl.
Probably.
And that is going to be a heck of an environment. For me, you have McVay, who's been there, done that. Lions, a lot of, Goff has done it. Some players on that team have done it, but it's a lot of, this is new. And to me, I do lean towards the experience, and we'll go with the Rams in an upset because they have been trending in the right direction. And Sean McVay, just like LaFleur, there are a lot of coaches out there where I like to trust them, and I have nothing against Dan Campbell. But McVay, to me, when you remove last year, he really is, a top 3 head coach in the NFL. So I got the Rams in that contest. I don't know what you have.
I'm going with the Lions at home.
Going with the Lions?
I think just everything culturally that's going on with that team. It's easy to be on that on that bus.
1,000%. For me, it's just like I need to. Sometimes in sports, you got to see it before you believe it.
Yeah.
When the Lions can finally get a playoff win, it's been like close to 3 decades now. When they finally get that playoff win, then we can start, then I can jump on the bandwagon. But, I'm just going based off history. I think a lot of Lions fans out there, I know some, they expect the worst, hope for the best sort of situation. So when projecting the NFC, it's going to go through San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And when looking at the Buccaneers, of course, in their ride to try to make it to Vegas, again with the Super Bowl on 10 Tampa Bay, they're hoping for an upset on Sunday, because when they head to the field on Monday, they will know exactly their situation entering that matchup. if one of the Packers or the Rams win, the Buccaneers do not have to fly out to San Francisco, which is huge because they're going to be on short rest. So then, it would either be going to Dallas or it would be going to Detroit. Now, if the Packers and the Rams could win, the Buccaneers would actually be hosting another playoff game inside Raymond James Stadium. And it would be time as a flat circle because they would be hosting the Rams and we would be running back 2021 all over again with the hope for everybody in Tampa that there's a different result to the end of that game. So that's on the NFC side. I think right now we would all be on the side of the Niners being it's really tough to imagine that the 49ers will not be there in Vegas?
Yeah, I don't see a scenario where they come up short this time. And it's because they have come up short over the past number of years where it's like, if this is going to be the year where you finally punch through that glass ceiling, it's the time to do it. Because, look, last year's NFC Championship, you lost 2 quarterbacks in that game. And it's like, as soon as that happened, you knew you had no shot. You couldn't even pass the ball. You had Christian McCaffrey thinking, well, can I pass, maybe? Like, something like that fuels you because you're like, you got to be kidding me. We really could have had it. So we've been sitting here talking about Brock Purdy possibly being MVP up until that Ravens game, but this team is really good.
Yeah, and I would say the one thing I'm looking for in the future is if the Rams do cross with the Niners, the Rams, they play a very similar style. They both know each other very well. That's a very scary game for the Niners.
It is.
To me, I think the 49ers, their toughest path to the Super Bowl might actually be L.A. So trying to get L.A. out of the playoffs would be number one goal for them. On the flip side of things, looking to the AFC, we got some other great storylines.
Fantastic
First, the Sean Watson game here with Cleveland heading down to Houston. You got the young buck and C.J. Stroud. You got Joe Flacco, who's right up there for possibly comeback player of the year.
Right.
I cannot believe what this man is doing in Cleveland. Who would have thought that the one guy, right next to Baker Mayfield, who can find success in Cleveland under center, would be Joe Flacco, who was sitting on the couch for half of this year. This is actually the largest age difference in quarterbacks in playoff history. So where are you in this one?
This game is hilarious to me because just the way this season has worked out for both teams. Cleveland had season-ending injury after season-ending injury. And you just look at the CVS receipt long list of injuries for them, and you're like, this season's done. And then here comes Joe Flacco, who is dealing. I mean, his connection to David Njoku is like, dude, how is this working? And funny enough, Cleveland fans weren't happy when he got there because, of course, they saw him with the Ravens for all those years, and he was torturing them when he was with Baltimore. But I look at C.J. Stroud, and I'm so impressed with what he's done this season. We saw firsthand what he did to Tampa Bay and what he did to the Bucs defense, and he shredded them. And he's an easy guy to root for. Same thing goes for their head coach. First year, right? Rookie quarterback, rookie head coach, winning season. They won that game, Indianapolis. They had to win that game against the Colts. And then Jacksonville didn't handle business to finish out the regular season. And then, boom, you are AFC South champions. And I think the momentum is on their side for that sake. But Joe Flacco in the playoffs, he's got the experience. He's got the Super Bowl.
I don't think he's lost a wild card weekend game.
Yeah, I don't see a scenario necessarily where the Browns go in there and stink it up. I think they actually have a shot to win this game, and and because upsets are going to happen on wild card weekend somewhere, I think this is probably the one.
Yeah, so the Browns are favored by 2. I do lean Cleveland this game, but just like you, I'm just a little bit worried that, again, Houston, another young whippersnapper type of team.
Right.
A quick turnaround, was horrible last year. They had the second pick. They get Stroud, and all of a sudden, DeMeco Ryans and Bobby Slowick, who's going to be a head coach very soon, the offensive coordinator there, they turn it around quickly. So I think they win with scheme a lot of times versus the personnel that hasn't quite caught up to it yet. So I do lean Cleveland, even though you like Houston. But the other couple of games, we'll rip through these quickly. The Dolphins at Chiefs. Again, Vince McMahon, WWE, writing this thing.
Right.
Tyreek Hill goes back to Kansas City. The Dolphins playing in sub-zero temperatures. It's going to be freezing in Kansas City.
It will.
Dangerously cold. I'm sure Natalie's gone. She ain't talking about this. But I don't know what Miami's going to do.
Yeah.
Because I freak out when it's 50 degrees down here.
Yeah.
What are they going to do when it's sub-zero?
I don't know. And that's the thing about losing to Buffalo last Sunday night, right? You had a chance to win that division. You had a chance to be at home in this round and to be in the comfort of the warmth that is Miami, Florida. Now you're going to Kansas City, where I think it's been snowing all week. And let's remember the last time these teams played each other, Tyreek Hill was almost nowhere to be found. He had a whole celebration plan for when he scored against Kansas City and never even got into the end zone. So we have no idea what that celebration was going to be. Kansas City, look, they've been just consistent, right? That's the one thing you can say about this Andy Reid.
A little underwhelming offensively.
This year,
I think
for
a little
sure.
Underrated defensively.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But just the consistency, though, of being in the playoffs, being at home, and finding ways to win games at home in the playoffs. That's what they do. And so it's really hard to pick against them, especially knowing that the Dolphins are coming off of 2 losses that they had to win those games, and they just could not do it.
And the Chiefs are favored by 5. That line has been creeping up. I think the more that the cold weather has been talked about, the more people are jumping on the Chiefs. I do lean the Chiefs. Just like the Buccaneers, honestly, the Dolphins have not proven to me that they can punch above their weight class, despite how sexy their offense looks and all that stuff. Their defense is breaking down completely. And Mahomes in the playoffs, I do expect things to go up a level. They are the defending Super Bowl champions. I do not see them getting eliminated in the first round. Finally, Steelers at Bills. Bills favored by 10. I think this is the blowout game, the ugly one. Yeah. Mostly because T.J. Watt when the Steelers have T.J. Watt, they are a different team to when they do not have him. They will not have him against Buffalo. And Mason Rudolph is your QB. It just smells like. And not to mention the Bills are kind of peaking at the right. They're peaking at the right time. I applaud the Steelers for getting there, especially after a midseason offensive coordinator change. I just don't see it with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I don't see it either. I mean, shout out to Mike Tomlin for getting a winning season out of this squad.
It's like death taxes, Tomlin getting a winning season.
Yeah, I mean, it's congratulations on doing that. I know they're not going to hang a banner for it, but Buffalo at home, they're too good. And, you don't have your best defensive player. Like, I don't know what do you do? And let me ask you this. The way that you view the Niners in the NFC, do you view the Ravens in the AFC the same way? As of this point, yes, you have to. I mean, here's the thing about Lamar Jackson. We're so used to him not being the healthiest around this time of year.
He does not have a good playoff resume.
And doesn't have a good playoff resume. Wasn't even able to play in that Bengals game, and Tyler Huntley fumbled at the goal line, that whole thing. But this year he's been healthy. It's been late, and we got late into December. He's healthy, and he's playing well. Right now I think he's favored to win the MVP. You give him a week to rest and kind of see the landscape. They're going to know who they're playing. The Ravens me personally, I would love to see Lamar on the big stage. Last year we got to see Jalen Hurts on that stage. Lamar, I want to see him on that big stage.
Potentially winning his second MVP this year.
Potentially winning his second MVP, has a chance to win a Super Bowl, and he said it on draft night, hey, they're going to get a Super Bowl out of me. I want to see if he can do it. And I'm not going to root against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. I mean, they are a pretty easy team to like unless you're a Steelers fan, in my opinion. So they're playing good football. Lamar's playing good football. He's got to stay healthy. Don't let the lights, get to you. If the lights are shining bright, don't freeze up. He just be Lamar Jackson and they're fine.
That's right. And do you think the Bills or the Chiefs are the team to worry about for Baltimore more? Defending Super Bowl champs or the guys that are trying to get there?
It's the guys that are hot and hungry right now. Like you've got a Bills team that, again, had to win in Miami. Like they had to win that game, and they hung on to win that game.
And they were a mess in that game too, by the way. It shows you how they really should have blown them out if it wasn't for Josh Allen, the entire Josh Allen experience, which is like a touchdown, a turnover, a long scramble. It's like some funny zoom in on his face. It's like the whole thing. It's
the Josh Allen experience, like you said. Like you have to live with the boneheaded stuff to get to the stuff that's like, that's why you're the quarterback. You got to live with it. But They're hungry, man. They have been so close. They have been so close. I always think back to that coin flip controversy, in that game in Kansas City. They're hungry. They want it. I know they would have to go to Baltimore in order to get to the Super Bowl if that's what they want to do. So I think that's the scarier team. To your point earlier about Kansas City, they're not playing their best. I know that they find ways to win playoff games, but those games are usually at home. They're usually hosting the AFC Championship. This time they would have to go to Baltimore. I don't know what they look like on the road in the playoffs because we've never really seen it.
Yeah, we're about to find out,
Yep.
because Todd Monken came in there for Baltimore. He might be a head coach very soon, came from Georgia, and he does have a playoff pedigree from winning national championships with them.
Yep.
And certainly got Lamar Jackson and this offense correct midway through the season, and they've been sailing ever since. So we will see who is heading to Vegas. Remember, the Super Bowl airs right here on 10 Tampa Bay each week. What we talk about is going to shrink down just a little bit because the teams are going to wither away. So it's going to be an exciting conversation for us as we lead up to that game in Vegas and see who will be the Super Bowl champion this season.